The following was recorded on August 7th, 2025. Please keep in mind laws, guidelines, and processes may change over time. This is the Italian Citizenship Podcast, hosted by Marco Permunian and Rafael Di Furia. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Italian Citizenship Podcast, presented by Italian Citizenship Assistance.com. Of course, we are back at it again with Italian attorney Marco Permunian, and I am Rafael Di Furia. And in this week's episode, we wanted to talk a little bit more about the Constitutional Court ruling from July 31st. In episode 47 of Ask the Italian Lawyer, Marco and I went over a little bit, just a brief overview of what's gone on. But in this episode today, we wanted to get a little bit more in depth about what's been happening. There's a lot of confusion about what's going on, and there's a lot of information online which is leading people in different directions. So we wanted to come in and give a little bit more clarification to the overall situation. So just before jumping into the clarification section, Marco, can you just give us another quick, brief overview of what actually happened on July 31st?
On July the 31st of this year, the Constitutional Court rendered a decision on the old system that established the requirement to apply for Italian citizenship by descent. More precisely, the Constitutional Court was called to review the old rules and to decide whether the old rules were compliant with the Italian Constitution. The Constitutional Court review was a process that was put in motion by several Italian courts, in front of which several citizenship cases were pending. And as part of those proceedings, the judges presiding over those cases decided that it was appropriate, according to them, to request that the Constitutional Court reviewed the legislation that allowed individuals to claim Italian citizenship through any Italian-born ancestor without any generational limit. And to further clarify the situation, to give some context, the review from the Constitutional Court was requested before the March 28th decree. So this is a process that was put in motion last year before the law changed with the Tajani Decree, and last year, as part of some judicial proceedings that were pending before some Italian courts, judges requested that the Constitutional Court would review the old legislation. And of course, the fact that the decision came on July the 31st, meaning after the Tajani Decree was converted into law, doesn't mean that the decision was going to be about the Tajani Decree. And in fact, it wasn't, and the court explicitly said that they couldn't issue a ruling on the Tajani Decree because the request that they received was regarding the previous legislation. So basically, they went into the details of the old rules, the old system, and rendered a decision about the old system.
Thank you, Marco. And you mentioned that the court arrived at a decision. What exactly was that decision that they made?
The decision that the Constitutional Court rendered was very encouraging because they basically took a very specific position, and they stated that as long as the law that allowed individuals to claim Italian citizenship by using any Italian ancestor who was born in Italy, of course, if all of the other requirements were met, was not clearly against the Italian Constitution. There was no indication that any of those provisions were violating the Italian Constitution. So the position of the Italian Constitutional Court was that the previous rules were not in any way violating the Constitution. And they reiterated basically that the Parliament, when they made that law, they made that law in their capacity of the body that issues the legislation in Italy, and as long as they don't violate what they're doing any provisions that are included in the Italian Constitution, they can issue basically any laws that they want. And therefore, they concluded that the previous provisions that allowed individuals to claim citizenship through any generation, as long as all of the requirements were met, was not unconstitutional. So what does this mean? This means that the previous law is fully compliant with the Constitution and can still regulate cases that fall within that law, meaning that those individuals whose cases are pending or those individuals who will be presenting their applications in the future and were able to secure an appointment prior to the cutoff, prior to March the 28th, will be able to use that legislation, which will remain in place without any modifications because none was requested by the Constitutional Court. With all of that being said, many have been asking us, what does this mean for the Tajani Decree, so for the new rules that went into effect first on March 28th, and then with the law of conversion in the month of May. Now, there is a separate proceeding that is pending before the Constitutional Court regarding the new rules. So the Court of Torino, as we mentioned in other episodes, has requested a review of the Tajani Decree and of the new system, basically, to the Constitutional Court. So the Constitutional Court is expected to render a second decision on the new rules. So not on the old rules for which they already decided, but on the new rules. And a lot have been asking, what does the decision that was taken on July the 31st mean for a future review of the Tajani Decree, which will take place at some point, likely early next year? And the answer is that we are optimistic because the Constitutional Court, in the decision from July the 31st, went over some of the requests that were made to try to restrict the access to citizenship by descent based on the previous rules. And more specifically, some courts were questioning whether the fact that allowing so many individuals with little connections, according to them, to Italy to become Italian citizens would affect negatively the definition of Italian population, because, again, according to those who were against the previous laws, the definition of the population of a country should be the people who live in the country, and not to allow, again, according to them, too many people who live outside of the country. And they even got to the point where they said that the old system was a threat to democracy. And one of the concerns that they had was, for example, among others, that the fact that there were too many individuals who are Italian citizens and that are residing abroad would cause the fact that it would be harder for a referendum to work because of the inability to reach a quorum, which is the minimum amount of people that need to participate in the referendum in order for the referendum to be validly happening. But that is not necessarily the case, because a lot of individuals of Italian descent who acquire Italian citizenship by descent are very motivated, and they very often want to participate in the decisions that are taken. Now, with that being said, what makes us very optimistic is that the Constitutional Court rejected all of those claims. So they said that all of those claims were lacking any legal foundation, any legal grounds. And so that it isn't true that the old system, which didn't have any generational limit, was posing any threats to democracy, was causing any sort of issues, and that the old system was fully compliant with the Italian constitution. And therefore, that the old system, which didn't set any generational limit, was not violating in any way the Italian constitution. And this could mean that a future decision that will be taken by the Constitutional Court, likely early next year, regarding the new system, regarding the Tajani Decree, will reflect some of those principles. So it's very much possible that the Italian Constitutional Court will state that the generational limits that the government decided to now impose are in violation of the Italian Constitution. And so now we are in the hands of the Italian Constitutional Court. And of course, we'll know the outcome of the case that is pending before the Constitutional Court regarding the Tajani Decree and the new system only when a decision by the Constitutional Court will be issued. And the Italian Constitutional Court is expected to render a decision on the new system, on the Tajani Decree, and on the law that converted the Tajani Decree, likely at some point early next year.
Well, Marco, this is all fascinating. And what about those who've been waiting, who've maybe put a hold on their process, waiting to find out what's going on? Should they be preparing their documents to be ready to move forward for when the time is right?
As we all know, especially individuals who go back many generations will have a lot of work to do to put together all of those documents. And of course, we at ICA can help with the procurement of all of the necessary documents. And since it takes time to collect documents, potentially amend documents and legalize them and translate them, if somebody's intention is to present their case after the Constitutional Court will render such decision, it will probably be advisable to have those documents ready for a prompt submission of the case. And therefore, it is my advice to collect documents and be ready, since collecting all of the documents that are necessary for this process takes time, especially for those who are going back many, many generations, and also considering that the documents need to be legalized and translated. We, of course, advise those who want to present their case to prepare beforehand and start gathering the documents. And of course, in this episode, we have focused on the upcoming decision of the Constitutional Court and the decision that was taken by the Constitutional Court on July the 31st. But that doesn't change that there are other legal arguments that, in our opinion, can be used to be grandfathered in and to present applications even before the Constitutional Court will render a decision. And we have gone through those arguments in several episodes of the Italian Citizenship Podcast. And of course, for those clients who are interested in presenting their cases as soon as possible, they're welcome to contact us or me specifically to discuss in detail all of the arguments that we're prepared to make before the Italian courts, to have individuals who were ready to submit their applications or were almost ready to submit their applications when the Tajani Decree was approved, to contact us to discuss the best path forward. And of course, anybody who's interested in receiving more information about this can contact me directly at my email address, marco@italiancitizenshipassistance.com, or through our website, italiancitizenshipassistance.com.
Well, Marco, thank you so much for making yourself available for this episode of the Italian Citizenship Podcast presented by italiancitizenshipassistance.com. Of course, for more information like this, be sure that you are subscribed to this YouTube channel for the latest information. Also, make sure that you're subscribed to the audio-only podcast. But of course, if you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, that means you're not only subscribed to the Italian Citizenship Podcast, but also episodes of Ask the Italian Lawyer and the Italian Real Estate Podcast for more about the practicalities and logistics of making Italy home. And if you're interested in more about life abroad and living abroad from the perspective of a dual citizen expat, be sure to come over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rafael Di Furia. But of course, again, we have been here with Italian attorney Marco Permunian. I'm Rafael Di Furia. This has been another episode of the Italian Citizenship Podcast presented by ItaliancCitizenshipAssistance.com. Stay safe and healthy out there, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you.
Thank you.